Well, thanks for joining us today. We're talking to Mary Wolff of Reef Technology, and Mary is doing some pretty exciting things. Mary, tell us what Reef Technology is doing in your own words.
Well, first off, thanks for having me. Reef is a really exciting company. What Reef does is it takes underutilized urban space and transforms it into something we call neighborhood hubs. So we start with the concept of the parking lot. And if you think about it, an app store almost, what are all the different use cases and all the different things that you can put on a parking lot? And trying to drive value through various verticals such as, we have a pretty strong presence in the healthcare space. We also work a lot with last block delivery. And then obviously one of our largest verticals is the neighborhood kitchens. Some people know them as cloud kitchens or ghost kitchens, dark kitchens. So there's a lot of different things that we're doing on them right now, and we have a lot of really interesting opportunities in the pipeline. You just think about what you can do with a parking lot, and we have the lots and the team and the infrastructure to help businesses get value out of it. I think the easiest way to describe it is with examples. So if you think about a parking lot right now, people think about it's a place to park their car. But what if you thought about it as just a canvas, a blank space where you could do anything on that space without the significant capital expenditure budget to put up a large building or to put up an office or to put up a doctor's office? You could think about operating various types of businesses such as the concept of a food truck, someplace where a food truck can go park and have people go purchase items. Or, in our case, the concept of the neighborhood kitchen or the dark kitchen, which primarily serves to cook food and serves its food directly through the delivery apps. And the reason that's valuable on parking lots in densely populated areas is because the value is being closer to the consumer. If you look at uses such as COVID testing sites, you don't typically want to bring people indoors for those, and you're not going to have that operation for hopefully years. Hopefully we don't have them for years. So you want to have short-term use cases that aren't expensive to deploy. This is a really good solution. And coming up with concepts and uses for parking lots that aren't just versions of what we currently do, but thinking of an entirely new concept. And we're starting to see some of that coming through the pipeline. So that's exciting. Some of these use cases can be transformed. So perhaps you're doing COVID testing right now, but as soon as there's a vaccine, you'll switch to giving out the vaccine, right? And then after everyone's been vaccinated, you'll turn into an urgent care center. So it extends beyond necessarily just the short-term use case. But it's cool how it really evolves over what the needs of the neighborhood are and how that parking lot, that blank canvas, can deliver it.
What you're really doing is you're helping your stakeholders in each of those verticals address challenges that they have through this different way of thinking about it. So in healthcare, what's the challenges you're helping them address?
The underlying theme with all the different problems that we're solving is the proximity to the consumer, right? So whether it be a parking lot that happens to be in an area where there's a big uptick of COVID cases and a provider sees an opportunity to get in there as opposed to finding an office and setting up shop, they can work on our lots. And we also have a team of, we call them Reef ambassadors that will assist with parking, assist with intake. So it's about bringing them closer to consumers where they want to be. With kitchens, we see all different types of brands that work with us. We have smaller businesses that are local that are, looking to expand to just a new neighborhood across town. We also see large national brands that are interested in opening up in every city overnight. So how do you do that? We have parking lots. We call them our vessels, and they have these kitchens inside of them, and we're already partnered with all the delivery platforms. So it's very easy for these businesses to partner with us, and we'll be able to make their food and deliver it overnight nationwide, essentially. So, there's that. And then, of course, there's the last block fulfillment, right? So businesses that are shipping and being able to stop at various lots along the way or setting up little, refrigerated storage units for them to drop food off or, if it needs refrigeration or merely just drop off packages, which then can be shipped via bike. There's another opportunity there. So those are some of the large use cases. We have a bunch coming into the works that are really exciting. I know that there's been talks about vertical farming so that people are going to be able to actually get their produce on their block. Every day there's another business that's come to us with another new concept. Even though we are a big company, we're learning as we go how best to set these businesses up for success on our lots.
Are you guys an enabler for other businesses that have consumer-facing brands and services, or you guys also have your own consumer-facing brands and products and services? Is it a combination of the two?
It's a combination. We have both our own brands. Specifically, we have a kitchen brand called Wings and Things, which is really, really popular. We also have a grocery/retail brand that we offer necessities, and we deliver that via the delivery platforms as well. And we also serve as a platform, or rather, we like to think of ourselves as almost a physical app store for other third-party businesses to work with us, and we'll provide the infrastructure and the lots and whatever else is necessary.
So talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey all the way through here. Were there different eras of your life so far, or your career so far?
Yeah, so all of it was really intentional. I'll start at the very beginning. When I went to law school, I knew I wanted to have the skill set that lawyers have, but I never really wanted to be a lawyer. So I think it was a combination of not knowing what I wanted to do when I grew up, knowing that it's a good degree to fall back on. And then while I was in law school, I got exposed to technology and startups, and that's when I started co-founding TapTL, which was the company which we received an Arch grant for. You know, if I look back, you don't know what you don't know. And when you are that early in your career and you haven't experienced, you know, all types of different businesses, you have this type of energy and this type of passion and ambition that's totally unbridled and limitless. And you have this hunger and this drive that just is unsettling in a good way. So when we were launching TapTL and we were trying to, you know, produce a product, there's a blessing and a curse in being that inexperienced at the time, because as I said, you have this energy, but also, you know, I didn't have the skills that I have now, such as discipline and focus. But learning those skills, it was an acceleration through co-founding that startup. Then, you know, when I look at the experience I got from Arch grants, that started to really teach me discipline and trying to be rational about my thoughts and calculated and, you know, working with a budget for the very first time. You know, having that system of responsibility and reporting was really important to manage the growth of the startup. So we launched that. We had a good run. We subsequently pivoted as we learned a little bit more about the product and the users and the problem that we were trying to solve, which, you know, when we launched TapTL, we didn't really launch it trying to solve a problem. We launched a cool product. And then I think we were trying to figure out, you know, we were throwing spaghetti against a wall to see what stuck. And then, you know, over time, as we started to listen to our consumers, we had the light bulb go off that we were selling the actual experience of what we were trying to sell, and that the actual product that we were selling was not the right medium or the channel to deliver that. So we pivoted into a software company. But, you know, since then, I went back to the drawing board to try to make ends meet and worked as a lawyer, got subsequent exposure to other startups, how they worked. While we were doing that pivot, I took a job by a former law client as their COO, and that was a company called Enforced Pay Garnishment Bureau. And I was really interested in artificial intelligence at the time, and it was really just a passion. But taking that job, which was a really good company, it was small, it was stealth, taught me a lot about just the very basics of people management. So there I was brought in as COO, which was an executive position, and I was immediately in charge of about 8 people. I had to figure out, which I think the hardest thing to do is to manage people. I had to learn how to do that the hard way. That was really my first time having a real boss. So I had to report to the CEO, and and that was on a daily basis versus more with Arch grants and my investors where, you know, that was more quarterly where you had to report to them and give them feedback. But so it was a really good experience. It was a great company, and they were doing really interesting things that I was able to use my skill set for because it was legal. And at the time, you know, I was learning artificial intelligence, you know, how machine learning worked. So I was able to be passionate about something, but also work with an existing product. I was actually recruited by another former client called Kairos to be their COO and general counsel. And that was a much bigger company than the company I was at before. At that time, I'd learned a lot more about P&L management responsibilities there. It was also a skill that I believe was really important. So doing that was really a tough experience. And then in addition, I've always been someone that maybe it's a good or bad thing, but I do what I believe is right. And I'm kind of a champion for justice. And I looked at the organization and I believed that we needed to restructure the senior level executives. So I was actually able to get on the board of that company, and we were able to make some changes to the chief executive officer, and we decided to put in the CFO. And ultimately, the work that we did there that was challenging, that was one of the hardest experiences of my career. just the pressure that came with trying to restructure, and you have to basically kick a founder out of a seat. But, you believe it's the right thing for the company, and that's kind of what my true North Star was. So after I'd done that, I decided I was sick of startup life. I wanted to now work at a company where it was, easier for the company to be successful as opposed to, thinking every day, are we going to run out of money? Are we going to do this? So I actually was referred to an opening at Sears and Kmart, where I was hired directly by Eddie Lampert, who is the owner of the hedge fund ESL. And I really enjoyed working with him. I think he is one of the smartest people I've ever worked with, and I was excited by the prospect of learning with him. And I also had the idea in my mind that I could bring innovation and new types of operating models to Sears and Kmart, which is a larger company, by leveraging my experience as a founder and being agile. So that was, one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, he was really a smart teacher, taught me a lot how to think, how to approach different problems, how to be more creative. So Eddie had a vision for one of the divisions at Transform Co. called Shop Your Way, which is basically the e-com membership arm of Sears and Kmart. And it's very much like Eddie's startup, where he was the founder and he had some ideas that were so before their time. I mean, I'm talking things like Pinterest, concepts that he had introduced far before that. But as tumultuous as the run had been for Sears and Kmart through the death of a lot of the retail industry, you wanted Shop Your Way to be the leader for all of Transform in a few different ways. And that did not feel as much like a big Fortune 500 retailer. It felt very much like a startup. But what was interesting is it still had a lot of the processes and SOPs and structure that a larger company would have, which I feel was detrimental to the growth of that startup, so to speak. It does tie your hands behind your back from being agile, from making quick decisions, from expanding and contracting quickly when necessary, from applying funds in certain areas experimentally and then hoping that something works out. So I'd experienced a little bit with natural language processing at one of my former jobs. And so one area that they were particularly interested in was chatbots. It was interesting there. I was really in a product role. I was a senior director, and the way I knew product was from my own experience of coming up with an idea, of building it and taking it to market. And I felt like that's better than any product education I could get. And so I was able to extract a lot of the skills of launching my own company and going to market and watching that fail and be successful in certain areas and iterating quickly to then this area. And then the other element, and this is because an interest, which is the gamification element, which is really about introducing game elements into real world settings, so to speak. In this case, it was into the e-commerce and loyalty platform of Sears and Kmart. So I was in control of one app that had millions of weekly users where they would play certain games in order to win points, which would then be redeemed on products. But there was so much science that we had to put into that and understanding the behavior of the different users and who they were and how do we target people with different offers so that they get hooked, so to speak. It was really quite an experience, and it was a fascinating world. And if I look at all of my jobs and where I am now, everything I've done, I kind of package up and bring with me. So now where I am at Reef, even though I'm technically the vice president of launch, I'm not really in a product role. I am really lucky that I have a boss and that the whole company feels like they're very technologically progressive. And so two of the elements I'm introducing currently is we're launching a chatbot for our workforce. And then we're also going to be introducing gamification into the workforce as well. So working hand in hand with hopefully a new hire, which would lead the gamification efforts to create all types of incentives and to really empower our team to reach their goals and also bring an element of data-driven decision-making. So it's been a really long journey. I mean, now looking at Reef, even though it's a huge company, it does feel like a startup. It's cool to see that you can be a startup at a company that's that size. So going from, a huge company like the Sears and Kmart gig to now coming here, there's a lot of differences. But, if you look at the sheer size of the companies, they're not that different. One thing I've been really passionate about always is efficiency. And I think looking at everything I've done, there's that backbone or that foundational underpinning of efficiency, right? I've always been interested in cutting edge technology. So whether that be chatbots, and I think the gamification, it's not that new, but I think the way people are combining it with data science and behavioral science to bring this new type of experience of using data in a triangular way with incentivizing the team in performance management to then make the experience better, empower individuals to perform better, get the data, recycle it, keep understanding how you can change your processes to make people's experiences better. It's an interesting intersection of a bunch of different things, but overall, I would say just cutting edge technology and new types of thought processes, as well as efficiencies, has always been something that I think is cool.
So talk a little bit about culture, and is culture different at small versus big, capitalized versus undercapitalized, or what really drives culture, and what do you think is the secret of culture?
One thing that I've learned throughout all of this, that the most important ingredient for success for any type of business, in my opinion, is culture. That's it. I mean, I remember I had a mentor that taught me corporate culture is really important. And I thought about that after he said it. And I was working at a mid-sized startup at the time. And I realized, we really didn't have a great culture. People were not happy there. People were staying there probably for the wrong reasons. I did what I could to fix it. I think one of the most important elements of good culture is being inclusive. So I think what I've seen in my experience, when people are competitive or when work is done in silos, it's toxic for morale, and it's also toxic for productivity. People develop favorites and leadership develop favorites, and I think that's extremely harmful, and it's cyclical. And then the other element is empowerment. So I think when you look at people at any level, whether they're entry level or executives, empowering people and giving them not only the ear of the stakeholders, making people feel that they're encouraged and welcome to give feedback, I think is really important. There's a perception of large venture-backed startups that corporate culture is awful, and if you don't meet your targets, someone throws a mug against the wall, or awful rumors that you've heard. But I think that everyone else in leadership that I work with they want to empower everyone to do well and hit their targets. They are empathetic, and they do hold you to a higher standard in a way that makes you better. And that goes hand in hand with empowerment. So it's a really great place to work. This is a place where people want to stay, and they feel lucky and happy to be here, and everyone contributes.
So you're VP of launch. What does that mean? Is it launching new concepts or launching new locations, or both?
It's both. So the way to think about launch is whenever we are launching anything new, and when I say new, it's not a new use case, right? So whether it's an existing use case, anything we're going to put on a parking lot or anything we're going to put on any of our sites, it's going to go through us. So what we'll do is we'll go get the site ready. We have a team of individuals, or launchers as we call them, throughout the United States and Canada, and they work with the local contractors to get the site enabled, to get power and water to the site, to make sure that everything's up to code, that we pass health inspections. They'll get the actual unit, or whatever the structure is. Sometimes it's a tent, sometimes it's a vessel, sometimes it's a food truck, to the site, and they'll get that ready for business, and at which point our team hands it over to our operations team.
You're clearly passionate about this. Who are the kinds of people that you guys like to partner with?
If you're looking for a great place to work and you want to work hard, I've had a lot of people that reach out to me on LinkedIn that actually have now gotten jobs because I appreciate their outreach and their confidence. And so any business that wants to launch on a real estate, reach out to us, whether it be short-term use or something that may exist longer on the space. We'd love to partner with you and launch something innovative.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate this opportunity.